Yeah, so this year we've got a bit of focus on fungicide tolerance. So blackleg is a sexually reproducing disease, so it's got enormous genetic diversity, and we've seen in the past that it overcomes the cultivar resistance in our cultivars, and we've always been suspicious that it might also be overcome fungicides that we use. So last year we set up a methodology experiment to have a look at this, and we screened 8 stubbles, and unfortunately one of those stubbles we thought we found some of fungicide tolerance, so we're having a better look at that this year. Yeah, so the risk of blackleg is really dependent on how much stubble there was last year. So we have a very large canola crop last year of around 4 million tonnes. It means we've got a high risk this year because we've got the stubble. So blackleg survives on the canola stubble and the spores are released from canola stubble. So the 4 million hectares of canola stubble last year means we've got 4 million hectares of inoculum ready to go this year. The main concern for us is that farmers are obviously using a lot of fungicides in canola. We want to make sure they get good bang for their buck. We don't want to see farmers spending that money if they're not getting the efficacy out of the fungicide. And we also want to learn about how to get the most use out of the fungicides. So the work we're doing this year is really looking at the isolates we collected last year to see whether they do go and form a stem canker and cause yield loss in the plants, and we also want to do a survey to see how widespread these isolates might be across the country. So we're aiming for about 200 samples from across Australia, and we're asking farmers to send in 20 stalks of stubble from last year's crop, and then we'll use those stalks to determine whether fungicide tolerance is present in the blackleg in those stalks. So the way we do that is we simply grow canola which has been treated with the fungicide, and we use the stubble to release the spores onto the canola and then see if the lesions form or not. Sclerotinia is a very sporadic disease. We know that the spores are across most of the canola growing regions in Australia every year, but you need specific weather conditions during petal fall for the disease to develop. So we don't know what the risk is at this time of the year, but we do know that in certain regions of Australia, if we get significant rainfall in that flowering period, then Sclerotinia will form. And the information we've got for farmers at the moment is pretty much based on history. So if you're in a region where you've had Sclerotinia in the past and you're getting rainfall during that flowering period, there's a high probability you'll get Sclerotinia again, and it's probably good advice to spray your crop with a fungicide to protect that. If you're in regions where you generally don't get Sclerotinia or very small amounts, then hold tight and don't worry too much about the disease. Well, just those other foliar diseases that we see each year in the middle of winter, the downy mildews and the white leaf spots. With pathology work and other diseases in canola in Australia, unfortunately blackleg's been such a significant disease that all the research dollars have gone into blackleg and Sclerotinia. But for the first time we're really starting to have a look at those other foliar diseases, and we are aware that in some circumstances they do cause some issues for some growers. So we're collecting data at the moment on that, and hopefully in a few years' time we'll have some much better management options for those other diseases.